Welcome back to another episode of Transforming Minds with Lisa. Last week, we would have heard from Makeitha and Shauntelle about their experience with parenting and online learning. Join us as we continue that discussion. So now we have everything pretty much up and running, I would say, as it relates to the online platform. I am going to come to Shauntelle on this one because your children are much younger. How are they coping as it relates to being able to maneuver through the app itself? Going into the classroom, selecting their subjects, learning where to go to meet, going into the to-do list and being able to see what's due and all of that. How are they maneuvering through all of that?
They pretty much know by now how to find the classroom and how to click the link to go to the Google Meet. Where the challenge comes is, first let me say the one of the major challenges that we've been having is that they have not yet set a timetable. Yeah. There's not a set timetable. So I can't say, well, okay, one teacher is Monday at 9 and then at 12 and then at 3, and that is consistent. Because then if I'm looking for that teacher to come on next Monday, something is a different teacher, and then one teacher has class while the next teacher has a class going on, and my children are expected to be in both classes at the same time. So outside of that, I find that when you figure out one program, they come up with something else. So for like example, then there was this Jamboard thing. I still have not figured out how it works. Then there's some programs that initially when they started, the assignments could be done in the classroom. On the screen page, you would do the assignment there and just submit it. Once they began to improve it, then you have Google Slides, Jamboard. Then there's this another one, I can't even remember the name, but so when you click on the assignment, it takes you to all these different websites where you have to do the assignment, submit it, and then go back and click turn in or mark as done. The challenges sometimes on the website, you gotta put in an email for the teacher or a code that you don't know. Then, especially if you go to Google Docs, you can't figure out how to turn in the assignment there. It's been from one headache to another. Then there's some that are calling for Flash Player that my computer does not support.
They're calling for a
Flash Player. So you can access the site, but you can't see what's going on because you need a specific type of Flash Player. So that you got to download all these different things along the way in order to get the assignments completed.
Wow.
And what we realized too is that some assignments are accessible on tablet. Then there's some that you cannot access unless you're using a laptop. Mm-hmm. And I have to figure it out 3 times because I have 3 kids dealing with. And so sometimes they're behind on assignments. And then another thing with the to-do list, I am now figuring that out because now some teachers, what they did is that they have put in categories. So when you go, you will find English or you will find math or whatever. But then underneath each of these are a gazillion assignments that you did not even realize were there. Because you're still trying to get these first ones figured out. So the assignments coming in all the time, you still have not figured out how to finish the other ones, how to submit them for 3 different children. So my kids they understand how to access the classroom, they understand how to get into the Google Meet, But then when the assignment is taking them to all these different sites and it's calling for all these different things, that's where my husband and I have to try to figure it out because they're still too young to understand it.
Okay. And you mentioned the point there of not knowing because there's no set time, no timetable.
Right.
And I guess with the country reopened, as we would call it, and parents being back out to work, I guess that poses another challenge because as a parent, you're out to work, but I think you would still want to have some level of control of what times they're on, what sites they're on, and you know, and it makes me wonder what's going to happen in those homes where those children are supposed to be, they go on at 9 o'clock, nobody's there.
Right.
Well, let's log on to YouTube. You know, so if the teacher comes in, then at 10 o'clock, they may very well end up missing that class.
I don't think that we're ever going to see perfection with this program. I think we're just going to have to make do because the one thing that has to be considered as well is that teachers are also parents.
Yes.
And while they're committed to teaching our children, they still have to make sure that their kids get onto their classes and they still have to. So I think
and the sharing across you and the sharing the devices as well.
Yeah.
So yeah.
The only thing that annoys me a bit is that there's no set timetable that I can memorize and keep track of. So every time, so sometimes they miss a class because a teacher that was supposed to come on Monday at 3 did not, and then decided to pop in Tuesday at 11, and I get an email just before, which I often miss because at Tuesday at 11, the other child is in the class and the device is taken up. So by the time I realize that this teacher is having a class that he doesn't usually have on a day or a set time that he does not usually do it, class is already 30 minutes in or it's gone. So that's the one tip that I have with it, that there's no set timetable in place.
Okay, so you're juggling much younger kids. So what is your typical day? You know, how do you get them up, get them settled? You still have ministry and all these different things happening. How are you juggling it?
Okay.
I know you said your husband is also working from at home, and I guess that's a blessing right there.
It's still been a challenge because I don't go to bed sometimes till late, after 3 a.m. in the morning. And the reason for that is that after dealing with them, so I put my day on pause to make sure that their classes are dealt with. Once that is done, at the end of the day, then we have to try to work on the assignments. So I don't get to, and I'm still dealing with ministry. I do online ministry. I teach leadership classes. Then we have the women's ministry. So at night, I'm busy teaching classes online with the church. And then I still have to get into my word. I still have to spend my time alone with God. So I go to bed like after 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. Which means that I probably will jump up late for class. So my husband usually gets up and try to get them ready. Sometimes they themselves may drop to sleep right after class, which means that they're getting up late in the night. So getting them to go back to sleep is a challenge. So sometimes they get up late and I try to get them something to eat quick before they get into class. And they go into class cranky. If they get up too late and they gotta rush straight to class, it means that they can't eat till they come with me for the class. And my daughter hates that. My daughter, especially if she gets up closer to 9 and she really got time to get into class, and my son's class does not start till about 10:30, which means he's sitting on the other side of the table eating breakfast while she's on the other side in class. That's not working for her at all. So she's not paying attention at all because everybody eating around me and I'm hungry. So it's been a challenge trying to make sure we get them up early, get them, make sure they have their bath, get breakfast, so that when they go into class, but I'm working on it. I am. Juggling has been a challenge, but I'm working on it.
Wonderful. You seem to have something going, a system going over there. Yeah. Makeitha, if you had to rate this online teaching process, and we're hearing a lot about the new norm, new normal. Everybody's talking about, oh, get accustomed to this, get accustomed to that. This is going to be our new norm. Can you see it being our new norm?
No.
Okay. And what if comes, because obviously your son will be going into a new school, and maybe the other one, I don't know if they would have another year. I'm not sure what school he's at. But let's just say that come September, we're not ready to reopen school as normal, and this has to go on a little bit longer.
I don't know, for the help of God, I don't see it as the new norm.
Mm-hmm.
I know eventually everything is going to be going to be on technology.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's going to go online. But the teaching, I don't see it being online, because even some of the teachers are complaining. Some of the teachers are also complaining because, as the apostle said, they're parents also, and it's difficult. My 11 plus son, he was, when I picked him up from school on Wednesday, she was saying that she not to go home and do it for her daughter.
Wow.
Right? And then the stress of the children now in the class also, not doing the work, and because they're so relaxed, even in the atmosphere in the classroom, they're still,
because they have to readjust.
Yeah.
Yes.
So she was complaining about that, and then she has to go home. So, it's challenging, but I do not believe that the school, maybe you might find some businesses and stuff like that online, and different things might stay online. But for schooling, I don't believe that. And most of the children miss their friends.
Yeah, and that interaction, yes. Yeah. And the play, let's not forget the play, yeah.
Exactly. We were made for socializing. So yes. I don't believe this is not the way God made it to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't believe it's going to stay that way. I don't believe it might extend, but I don't believe that. But I will go as God lead me.
Okay. Parenting and online learning was indeed a transition for both parents, the ministries involved, the teachers, all the parties involved. But we want to say a big shout out and a thank you at this time to one, the parents who made the transition process, even though difficult at times, possible. Those parents who worked alongside of the teachers and put aside their many differences to make sure that learning was happening at home during this period. And to you, teachers, who worked with the parents, who pushed and made sure that our children of this nation would have benefited, even though they were on lockdown, would have had the opportunity to continue learning and completion of their syllabus. We salute you today as well. Apostle, are there any suggestions that you believe can better the way forward? Because we looked at, many of the hiccups and we realized that there are quite a few, but a lot of them are things that I believe with time can be ironed out, and with planning and structure.
Right.
So, but from your perspective, is there anything that you would suggest? Because we would have heard from the ministry's perspective,
Right.
and we would have heard from some of the teachers' perspective through the voices of the unions, etc.
Right.
Now we're hearing from a parent's perspective. Are there any suggestions that you would make or recommend to help better this process?
One of the things that I would say is this. If there wasn't this COVID-19 pandemic, the children would have been in school from about 9:15 to 3 o'clock. That would have been it. Which means that the teachers would have been there as well for that period. During that period, they have a timetable that was working in school. So they have English from 10 to 10:30, whatever. I think that if they can get the timetable that they were working with in the school to be active online, so that I know that the key mirror, it would help to bring a balance. If they could try to, I also think that the online sessions, if they can try to teach it in smaller bits, Like my son, because he's older, sometimes his classes are almost 3 hours, 2 hours. And if they could try to, how to put it, minimize the amount of information that they're giving in one session, because the children are distracted. So it's like, it's falling on deaf ears really, because they're distracted.
Yeah.
They're sitting behind the screen. There's a lot going on. The school environment is quieter. At home, you might got a neighbor playing music. You might got somebody quarreling over in the next gap. You might got the house next door might be doing work. Like recently, my son was in class, and you could hear a jackhammer next door.
Yeah, I
The
mean,
neighbor
some
next door.
schools I've visited, I realized that there's still a lot of activity even around the schools.
Yeah.
Which reminds me, persons, when you live near the school, please stop burning stuff during school hours. Because, I mean, like, seriously, be considerate.
Yeah.
But, yeah, back to what you were saying. I have noticed that you made mention of 3-hour classes.
Yeah.
And I was here, if you realize, I started to ponder. I was like, 3-hour classes. Because an average day starts around 9,
Right.
9 in the class.
Yeah.
I think they get break around 10:40.
Right.
So that's really, and then after that, they go back to class by 11.
Right.
But then they get lunch around 12.
Right.
And then they go from 1, from 1, right?
Yeah, till about 2:30 to 45.
So their average day would not be a full 3 hours.
Right.
They usually have breaks. So I can understand why the child would get restless.
So, like my son, he is not in the highest class. There's still a lot of work that has to be done with his class. And I think his teacher is trying her best to keep them up to par.
Okay. Okay.
But in the same token, I think that if a child goes on at 9 a.m. and that child is still sitting there at 12,
That's a lot.
it's a lot.
You may need to
It's a lot.
put a break in there somehow, even if you go off for like 15, 20 minutes
Yeah.
and just come back
So
on.
that's why I'm saying that if they do it, that the child has to come on at 8:45, and they break at the usual time that they would break. If they could try to work that system, I think it would be a little less tedious. It would allow the parents as well to get accustomed to a set system. It would also allow us, like, for example, my son, there was a class that his teacher was teaching, and she's very good with them, but the way that she had to teach it and what had to be done, a parent had to be there with him.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Now, this is where I had to accept the fact that this is my child, and we have to do our part. We can't expect these teachers to do all the sacrifices.
Yeah.
But at the same time, suppose I had an important meeting.
Or a 9 to
Suppose
5.
I had a deadline. Suppose I had an emergency and I couldn't be there. It means that he would have been disadvantaged. I also believe that there's some classes that they can put on hold until September. Like Spanish, I think they put that on hold.
Okay.
Because the reality is, unless a parent is fluent in this particular subject, the child is still disadvantaged because we don't know what to do on our end. So I feel like the basics, English and math, are the subjects that they can more push, and the more technical ones. Because the reality is nothing more can be done at this point. Really, truly, for me, I believe September, when they go back into school, instead of introducing new concepts immediately, they're going to end up having to revisit old ones. Because there are children that have not attended school yet online.
Yes.
Because they're not able to, there's no internet in the home, there's no, one of the other things that would help is if there could be a way to make sure that each household has devices, which I don't know if any persons receive, but my household is not. One of the things that I think would help to make that possible. I think we rely on the government too much for everything. If churches can come together and sponsor, if the computer places can come together, so well, I'm willing to donate 100 computers. If we could come up with a way, I saw that one person that I know would have donated tablets would have been Stephanie Chase.
Yes.
But she's only one person. I know. I'm not saying that others didn't do it.
Yeah, there were some other businesses that came on board, but I guess the reality is that there's so much, but I'm not making excuses for those businesses who could have
Right.
didn't,
Right.
because we know that there are a lot more persons out there that could have given.
Right.
But I do know that the ministry themselves, they are trying to ensure that each household gets some device.
Right.
We are hearing a lot of challenges, but as you said, there are many answers to them, and we believe that with time they could be ironed out. I guess because we were thrust into this thing suddenly,
Yeah.
and we didn't have the opportunity to prepare beforehand. So I think a lot of it we're trying to iron out as they go through.
Right.
So the parents need to do their part, the teachers need to do their part, the ministry, everybody, all the stakeholders, everybody has to come together and do their part. And I really feel for the little darlings who are caught in the middle of all of the adjustments that need to be made. But in wrapping up this session, I don't want to close without giving you the opportunity, because sometimes we forget to make mention of those persons who have been instrumental in our transition process. And this indeed was a change for most persons, whether it was change in even how they relate to their children, because there was a point in time you probably would not have spent so much time at home.
Right.
You know, you're spending all day at home, a new appreciation, as you said, even for the teachers who work with these children, you know, all day pretty much.
Right.
And we just get them in the evening half, and sometimes they're tired, you know. So is there anyone, I'm going to give both of you the opportunity, I'm going to start with you, Makeitha, that you would like to just acknowledge at this time quickly before we go off there?
Yes, I would like to acknowledge my prophet, Philip and Julia Bass. They have been an encouragement for me. I've been there when I felt discouraged, because they also been an encouragement for my children. We come through it with the help of God. We've been coming through it slowly, but I don't believe, as I said earlier, I don't believe it's going to be the new norm, because as we all know, there are some children out there that don't even have electricity, some don't have internet. So what will happen to those children if this is the new norm? They can't be left behind. So, but God is good, and just wait and see the outcome, what God has in store. I mean, He's faithful.
Thank you, Makeitha.
Okay. The reality is that this is new for everybody, and I think I want to commend our government, our Prime Minister, for the excellent job, in my opinion, that she has done in managing our country throughout this, because it is not something that we've ever had to do before. And it's so easy to say she should do this and she should do that, when we don't know all the technicalities involved. And I don't know that I could have done a better job. So I want to acknowledge our Prime Minister for doing a wonderful job. I also want to thank my son's teachers. For my son's teacher, my daughter's teacher. Even though the program is not perfect, they're still able to learn something. And it's been challenging for all of us, and they've been very patient, they've been very committed. I also want to thank my church family, because without a strong spiritual support system at a time like this, you're going to cave in. This is not, I was saying to the church recently that I remember growing up and hearing all the persons talk about Hurricane Jeanette or Hurricane Gilbert. I never thought that I would look at myself years from now telling my grandchildren about the period when I lived through COVID-19. So definitely times are changing, but I just want to thank my church family for rallying around me, because without a self-support system, this would mess with your mental health. And so that's it for me. And God,
of course, yes.
Because definitely the Lord has been on our side. And as bad as it is, it could have been so much worse.
I also want to add the Prime Minister, yes. She done a very good job. I find she was very proactive.
Okay.
Where we are right now. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, hats off to all of you persons who would have been working, you teachers who went beyond the call of duty and was there. I remember at one point in time, my sons were getting work even in the Easter vacation, and I think it was just to get an idea of how the program really works. I think they were trying to get, things in place. So I just want to thank all the persons who would have been right there alongside of us, assisting, making this thing a little bit easier for us to manage. I want to thank the support team and you wonderful ladies.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it. And until next time, see you again. Transforming Minds with Lisa.